County Regional Planning Commission to order. Would you stand with me, please? I'll lead the prayer. Mike Cush will lead the pledge. Bow with me, please. Heavenly Father, we again thank you for this day and the blessings you've given us and the opportunities here to serve our fellow man. And we thank you again for this thankfulness time of the year that's in our hearts and the giving time of the year coming up. We pray that we will be a giving people and we will help others, Heavenly Father, and people that need help. And we know of that, but let us step up and take that responsibility. And we pray that you just be with us today and all tomorrow and all our tomorrows, and let us save us in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
See you. All over with men.
Ronna Allen.
Here.
Richie Boland.
Here.
Veronica Buchanan.
Here.
Will Jordan.
Here.
Mike Cush.
Present.
Jeff Phillips. Pettis Reed.
Here.
Steve Sandlin.
Here.
Mike Vaught.
Here.
Vincent Windrow.
Here.
Craig Lynch.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Entertain a motion on approval of our October 24 minutes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I reviewed those, find them in order, and move for their approval.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Doug, anything withdrawn or deferred?
No, sir. Nothing withdrawn or deferred.
Submitted for site plan approval, Dollar General.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you stated, the first site plan of two that we have today for your review is the Dollar General located along Las Casas Pike and Lofton Road. This is the southwest corner of that intersection. This is the site of the former location of a drug pharmacy, which moved to a new location within the last year. This property is currently zoned C2 and was granted conditional use approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals back in October of this year. No additional conditions were placed on the property. We have had some discussions with the public about some traffic and access issues to the site, and I think there were some drainage issues as well. We staff reviewed this plan. We did make a number of comments on it. It appears to meet the conditions and the standards that we had seen on the site plan as far as any discrepancies based on our regulations. But with that, I'll turn it over to the engineer, Mr. Del Corbett, for some more discussion on the other issues we were discussing.
Well, there are quite a few questions or comments on the drainage of this site. If you look at the drawing, you'll notice that the 100-year flood elevation is 579.4. If you look on the Lofton Road there, you'll see a line going across at 576. The water crosses just the 100-year flood elevation. The water goes across the road. There's an 18-inch pipe there. That this site, this pipe drains about 230 acres, which requires, I think, something close to 57 CFS. That pipe can handle about 17 or 18 CFS. So you could enlarge the pipe, but it wouldn't help you any because you're in the floodplain and it's going back over the road anyway. The site itself, what they've done is their detention area there, they are required to retain the first inch, and then they have a detention with a micro pool there. But they've actually made this detention pond a little bit larger than we normally put in these sites, so that it will actually detain a 100-year rain coming off the site. The site now, when you have a 100-year rain, you get about 5.7 CFS coming off of this site. The way they've designed this, in their weir box at the bottom, if they got a 1-inch pipe for the water to drain through, so the water coming off the site goes from 5.7 CFS to 0.02 CFS for the whole 100-year flood. Now, the result of that is you get a little more water coming off the site, but it's coming off at a slower rate. The thing is, because of the way the FEMA flood elevation comes in there, if you want to, you can see it helps it out, but it's a minor point. The point is it won't add to the flooding that they've already got there, but it's not designed to correct the flooding that they have there. We've about the only solution would be to do something to Bradley Creek, and that's controlled by the Corps of Engineers, and they won't let you get in there and do anything to it because that ran all the way down to the river.
So it doesn't help, but it doesn't hurt. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
But I heard you say it's taking in water from a 200+ acre area, which is not controlled by the applicant by any
That's
means,
correct.
I would
That's,
think.
that's there regardless. If you put anything there or not, it already drains 230-some acres that comes down through that height. What they've done is they've made the water coming off the site enter that water at a slower rate, which would cause it to rise at a slower rate.
Is there any way to make that detention pond a little bit larger to,
Well, under our regulations, the only thing they're required to do is handle the water that comes off the site, and this is actually larger than what you need to handle the water coming off the site.
They've already made it a little bigger than they had to.
so they're already doing that?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
So it meets our requirements, is it?
It meets our requirements, yes.
Will they be doing anything on this property to affect any other property owners out that way?
As far as the water's
As far as the
concerned.
water concerned?
If Bradley Creek takes a long time to go down, the water will slowly drain out of this. It would be insignificant in a big pool. So what they're doing here, they've taken care of. Again, it won't affect the other neighbors in there. That 18-inch pipe affects it more than this. But the 18-inch pipe, again, is because that creek's going to back up and go over that road. Once you get over that road, it doesn't matter what size pipe you got in there. The water equalizes and it'll go to whatever level of water you got in there. So this won't make that situation worse.
What's going to happen is going to happen.
What's going to happen is going to happen.
So, Dale, how long has that, the existing building been in there?
The one where the pharmacy is?
Yeah, that's all coming out, this is going in.
Yeah, that building, I came in, this is my 14th year here. That building was there when I got here. Now, they've used it in 2 or 3 different, they sold some model homes there, and they've done 2 or 3 things, but that building's been there since I've been here.
Early 90s, I would guess, early to mid-90s.
So basically, we're just, we're adding more asphalt, which is gonna have a little quicker runoff, a little bit bigger building.
Right.
But close to the same footprint as existing.
correct.
So,
And the pond, which is not there now, will be in there to catch that extra runoff.
so we're not looking at too much of a difference, really.
Well, the previous, I think, if you didn't do anything with the water, the previous like 5.7 CFS, and I think the post is 10, so you're adding like 4-point-something CFS if you didn't do anything with it. And the pond's designed to detain all that extra. Well, actually, it's going to detain everything coming off there and release it through a 1-inch pipe.
A 1-inch pipe?
1-inch pipe. Now that's that
They'd
1-inch.
like to plug a 1-inch pipe.
I agree, but the state and this water quality thing, all of the new structures that we've seen so far have this 1-inch pipe in there, and that's in the state BMP manual. And we've talked about maintenance and the thing plug-in, but again, they're going.
Dirt dollar building has to go for a
That's
1-inch
not even
pipe.
a coffee cup right there.
Is the water going over the road now,
Yes.
in occasion,
What's the length of that pipe?
spring and fall or something?
Yeah, when you have the bigger rain.
Has there been any discussion about widening the end of Lofton Road? I know there's a petition against this or a petition out there, because I've had a number of calls on it. And widening the end of Lofton Road, because the end of Lofton Road is actually narrower than it is where it crosses Bradley Creek on down a half a mile or a quarter of a mile or something like that.
We've not had any discussions in the office about widening it. That we'd have to take that through the road board since that's a county road.
And the
If
neighbors,
you want, I can approach it with it, but
the neighbors out there are under the impression that this is going to be on the agenda 2 weeks from now, since it was on the night agenda before.
Well, no, of course, the public hearing for this, for the use of the property, went to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This was actually, what ended up happening, this was supposed to have been on our last day meeting agenda, which would have been last month, I forget the date, in October. The Board of Zoning Appeals would have met prior to that, and then if they had gotten their use approved at that point, this would have come as a site plan approval at the meeting, this particular meeting, last month in October. There was a discrepancy with the legal notice, so the meeting had to be bumped a couple weeks. So the meeting for the Board of Zoning Appeals didn't actually happen until after our last day meeting for the Planning Commission, which is why this wasn't on October's agenda. Since the plan was already reviewed and really just waiting on the Board of Zoning Appeals to make their decision one way or the other, we put this on the night agenda as a site plan approval. It still would not have had a public hearing. We would still have the same discussion we're having right now. It just, since it was already ready, rather than make them wait until the day meeting, we figured it's ready, let's go ahead and put it on the night meeting. And we've done that before with some plats and plans. You'll recall occasionally we'll have one on the agenda for night meetings. The applicant had requested that this be removed from that agenda for their own reasons, and then asked for it to be placed back on this agenda. So that's kind of the chronology of events. Typically, we would not handle these on night meetings. The only reason we did is just because it was already ready. It had gone through the process. It just, because of the Board of Zoning Appeal meeting being moved a couple of weeks, kind of just changed that up just a little bit. So that was that. Again, this would not have been up for public hearing at the night meeting, nor even if we would have held it to the night meeting next month, it wouldn't have been a public hearing then either. It would have just been a site plan review like we're doing right now.
No public comments as to traffic and that kind of stuff then?
I'm sorry?
No public comments as to traffic
Well,
and that
we
kind
would
of
treat
stuff?
this like
Because
we treat
the concern
any-
is here is Lofton Road.
Right. I mean, we would treat it just like we would treat any site plan or plat. Now, if someone wants to speak, then you can make a suspension of the rules request, motion to suspend the rules. And if that's seconded and then approved, then you can have people come up and talk. I mean, there's nothing that says that you can't do that. But this wasn't a public hearing. The use has already been approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So, I mean, really what we're looking at this point is the site plan. We're not talking about the use of the property.
Yeah, I realize that. That's
Right.
what I'm talking about, it's the site plan.
Right.
Because they don't like the side of the road down through there, because it is pretty narrow on at the head of it right there.
This needs to be a lesson to us as far as zoning property and realizing what could change in the future. This piece of property got zoned a long time ago for something that wasn't very intrusive, and now the zoning is in place, and there's not a lot of ways to work around that, and stuff. So we,
It was actually zoned, when the delays did a delay estates in the mid to late 70s, they actually zoned this corner here commercial.
Yeah.
And that's how it got zoned commercial. It was zoned in the original plat of the
then
subdivision.
the next step was the drugstore, which wasn't going to be too
Well,
much
actually,
traffic.
the model home and then to the
Yeah,
drugstore.
But each one wasn't going to be too intrusive or too
That's right.
invasive, and nobody really fought that very much. And then you've stair-stepped, but the zoning's in place. And we had another issue like this about a year or so ago, and you may not like what the thing is, but we're looking at a site plan at this point in time. It's down to mechanics of it here. If the site flows and meets the criteria, it's not a zoning issue. But that's why I like to give people conditional use permits that can be taken away upon change of ownership of the property instead of rezoning property for small family businesses and things like that. But I've been told that's bad planning. Get my little jab in while I'm there.
Good. Ma'am, did you wish to speak? Okay.
You need a motion to
I
suspend the
do. I need
rules.
a motion to suspend the rules.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules, allow the lady to speak.
I'll second. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Yes, ma'am. If you could give us 3 minutes, that would, come right over here and give us your name, please.
Here, and also a traffic accident.
Come right over here. Yeah, Mike, grab that and look at it. It's gonna.
My name's Nettie Monday. I live 6833 Lofton Road. I've been there 25 years. It is one property removed from this site, approximately 300 feet from the proposed end of the Dollar General store property. I understand that this has been commercial for many years. It was when I moved there. Conditions certainly have changed since I've been there. Lofton Road is very narrow. Our property lines end in the middle of the creek. We have the road that runs through the front of our property. And I expect today, before I go home, I am not going to have a road to get to my house on because the road is already nearly to the water's already nearly to the road. For years when it has gotten over the road, it will come about 20 feet up in my property. The level will be right under my mailbox. 4 years ago, in 2007, I learned that FEMA had redone their flood map and that they had put my home at high risk for flooding. I have been paying $400 a year for flood insurance ever since. I am definitely not happy about this. I cannot help but believe any tweaking you do to that property, which is so much higher in elevation than my home, is not going to make a difference in whether or not my house gets water in it. Lofton Road is way too narrow to bear any more traffic on it. The only straightaway on that road, which is a mile and a half, less than 2 miles long, is from the bridge, not the bridge on Las Casas Highway, but the one on Lofton Road to the intersection, and people open it up. There is, in the back of your petition, an attached report I got from the Department of Transportation, one of the statistical analysts there, about the number of accidents since October of 2003. There have been 8 on Lofton Road, 13 at that intersection, and that's not up to date because there was one on Halloween morning where the sign that has the big picture of the fire engine designating the Las Casas Volunteer Fire Department was sitting at this angle, and skid marks across Lofton Road. So I'm sure that whatever car lost it there had come off of Lofton Road. There's a problem getting out, has been for years, turning left towards Murfreesboro off Lofton Road, particularly at certain times of the day, like when the school is about to open. Also, the road, Canesville Highway, where it comes to the intersection, is offset from Lofton Road. And you literally have to make eye contact with whatever car is sitting there, and somebody has to give the go sign, or you'll end up into each other. If they're turning left, I'm turning left. If I am sitting there, I have a small car, there is a car turning right onto Lofton Road, and say it's a pickup truck, somebody's going to lose a side mirror if you don't go very slowly and carefully. It is very narrow. And of course, there's nothing you can do to the side on Bradley Creek. There's a guardrail there and a steep embankment down into the creek. Okay. My 2 main talking points are going to be that everybody that I have approached, I'm 65 years old, I got a titanium knee, the other one needs to be titanium. I got on 4 occasions myself and walked door to door to get this petition signed. I got 100 signatures in 4 occasions. If given enough time and a means to get the word out there, I could get many, 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 many more. Of all the people that I approached, I had 6 that declined to sign this, and 4 of those indicated they were related to or friends of the seller. People are not happy about this. I went to 14 of the 24 homes that front Lofton Road. Just 14 of them. I have 19 signatures from those homes. I went to almost all the homes in Thompson Farms. You can see on your petition I have many, many signatures from Thompson Farms. 14 of the homes I approached in Delay Estates that I could get to the door or were at home signed my petition with only one individual declining to sign, although he indicated he was not in favor of this plan. I went to 6 homes in Chesterfield. Had 2 people decline, again, because they were related to or friends of the seller. I went to 5 homes in Farmington. All of them signed it. At that point, I ran out of steam, and I decided this may be a losing battle, and I went home. Okay. The plan to put the entrance and exit on Lofton Road is really ill-conceived. It is just really not a good idea. Included in the people who signed my petition were 2 sheriff's deputies who live in Thompson Farms, the chief of the Las Casas Volunteer Fire Department, and the Las Casas Elementary School crossing guard who lives behind me in Delay Estates. In terms of what we see as an inappropriate place for a Dollar General store, one that would spoil the rural atmosphere that we all enjoy, and the reason that I moved out there 25 years ago, I'd like to speak a little bit about the opportunity that you all have to make this a more appealing visually, if it has to be there. I'm thinking something that looks like the new drugstore that has a doctor's office and an optometrist's office in it would be really visually appealing. I had a friend who just moved from Arizona who grew up in that area, and I talked to her yesterday. She had not even noticed the drugstore building because it blends in. It looks like a nice house there. I have long heard about how picky Williamson County is about what they build or allow to be built over there. And I looked online yesterday and did a little search, and it was interesting. I found that there are only 3 Dollar General stores in Williamson County. 2 of those are in strip malls in town. There are 7 in Murfreesboro. This seems to me to be overkill. Again, I'm acting like this hasn't already been approved. Okay. I feel like the residents out there who've been against this plan have been underrepresented at the change of usage hearing on, I believe, the 26th. I had talked to our county commissioner that morning, and I asked him if he minded telling me how many calls he'd gotten for and against. He said he'd gotten 1 against until I got out with my petition. He said since then the phone has been ringing off the hook. Indeed, it rang twice, call waiting, while I was on the phone with him. I told him I would see him at the hearing that night. He did not show up, nor did he bother to give that information to the recorder at that meeting. It was held at 4:30. Nobody, there were 4 of us there who opposed this meeting. There's a problem with getting information out there. This is not in the News Journal. The News Journal, which is not widely subscribed to out there. I was told that such notices are in the Post. We don't get the Post out there. If I had been smarter, I would have, when I took the petition around, I would have gotten people's email addresses or their phone numbers. I didn't do that. That was my bad. But we've really had a hard time. When I found out this last meeting was, the date was changed, I had no way of knowing how to get in touch with the people that I had encouraged to come to that meeting. Okay. I guess I've about run out of steam here. Again, my 2 main requests. Please do not put this on Lofton Road. I can tell you that if my house floods in the future, I'm going to hold y'all responsible for that. I've been there 25 years. I've never had water in my house. FEMA says you're at risk. Okay. You put that much asphalt up above me, I'm thinking I'm going to have water in my house. And the other thing is I encourage you to think about changing the appearance and making this, if it has to be there, an asset rather than an eyesore. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Comments?
Craig, let me comment, because I live about a half mile from this. Now, I'm not opposed to Dollar General because I'm generally pro-business, and I like the county getting the revenue off of it. But I think the traffic coming down Lofton Road, to me, is a problem. Lofton Road is narrow enough. I've got friends that still live past that, that have combines and tractors and discbines, and it's narrow enough to get in. You can't get in there now with that and a car sitting there. You have to wait. I mean, it's just that narrow. And on down past that, you can meet somebody because of the guardrail on one side, and actually there's a rock wall on the west side of Lofton Road adjacent to this property. I think if the traffic issue was worked out a little better, and possibly if let me be up front here, the present owner of the property is a good friend of mine, so I'm caught in the middle here. But I think Ms. Mundy's concerns are legitimate. If it had part of the trouble is we've had when the drugstore left there, we approved about a year ago or a year and a half down where Stones River Bridge intersects, where Stones River intersects Highway 96. We approved the drugstore and all that. I think Johnny McFarland did such a good job as set a very, very high standard for the area as far as appearance goes. And part of the problem. I think if it looked a little different than a conventional Dollar General, it would be a lot better for the community. It would go over a lot better in the community. I'm certainly not opposed to it, but given the present traffic thing, I would have to be opposed to it unless we can work something out.
Okay.
I got a question for Doug. How much latitude have we got? I mean, it's in the zoning hearing, it's a site plan. And these are usually conversations we have when we're zoning a piece of property. Is it fit the criteria? We can hold their feet to the fire for more brick or rock or whatever, and as you know, as aesthetics. But on a site plan,
Like you said, for the aesthetics of the property, there really isn't much in the way of any leeway, I don't believe. Now, the applicant is present, and I mean, he's heard the discussion that we've had here. I mean, if he's willing to make some changes on his own, that's all well and good, but I don't think it's anything that you can condition approval upon.
we say we want this to have a rock front or a brick front. That's discrimination, and we end up in court and we're in trouble because
they
we're
have submitted
handpicking
some.
an applicant.
I mean, they have submitted some architectural renderings that we got this morning before the meeting. In their defense, they did try to email this to us a couple of times, but the file was just too big. It didn't go through. And I mean, they do have some brick on the front now, but it does have, based on what I'm looking at here, it does appear to have the appearance of what you would normally see on a Dollar General, the same type of appearance.
The one down on closer to Compton Road, that looks
It's
just like
similar
that.
to that, yes, sir.
Yeah, but when the criteria changes, though, from the existing business that was there as far as trips in and out and what you're going, I assume this is just gonna be a one tenant?
Yes. That's our
Standalone.
understanding at
General.
least.
It's a
Not
standalone.
one-
It's a standalone.
Yes, it's a standalone.
And that's a plus too.
Yeah.
Let me say that within the community.
But if you're talking about, you know, more trips in and out here, it has changed the traffic flow from what was there before in the pharmacy compared to the Dollar General. Can we not, you know, have the exit out on Lofton, the entrance in on Las Casas, or something? Is there some kind of
Well, those kind of design things I think you can discuss. Now, quite frankly, and you know, Mr. Corbett can probably articulate this better than I can. From a staff standpoint, I think we're more comfortable with the Lofton Road access than we are with the Las Casas Pike. I mean, I understand the speaker's concerns and everything, but I think if you open it up to Las Casas Pike, you start creating other concerns that, you know, from a traffic management and access standpoint. Again, Mr. Corbett could probably address those more eloquently than myself. But
My opinion would be that it's certainly a plus to have the exit onto Lofton Road. Then you have to go to the end of Lofton Road to get back on Las Casas. You certainly don't want them pulling out at that intersection.
Conflicting 100 feet away.
Conflicting
Yeah.
probably 75 feet away.
Yeah.
Correct.
What about a turn in though, right up here to come in?
You know, I don't know. That might be good. It might be. I don't know. Dale could probably answer that better. And I've had that same thought, Craig.
You made a directional turn where only the traffic coming from Murfreesboro would
Turn in.
So you wouldn't have the conflict of the Auburntown traffic trying to cross that lane.
That's
that
true.
possible?
One of the problems
They've
would
got
be getting the permission from
Engineers are in
TDOT
the-
to put it there because they're so close to Lofton Road.
Applicant's engineer
Might get an
is
entrance,
correct.
but it would be an entrance only from the eastbound lanes of 96 if you did that.
You know, we've talked about before.
Yeah, I think that'd be the only way you could get it approved.
Fronts down.
That'd be the only way
They can't go
it
this
ought to be
direction 'cause of
approved.
Bradley Creek, so they gotta go into their own.
Say it again, Mike.
An entrance only from the eastbound lanes of 96 would be the only way. If you added an additional entrance, only coming from Murfreesboro should you be able to turn in. If you were coming from Milton or Auburntown, you would still have to go on Lofton Road, and that would, you know, you wouldn't want it where everybody turns in, both directions turn in directly off 96.
Okay. Steve, comments?
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Steve Steele with Huddleston Steel Engineering. I'm here with Monty Turner, the proposed development of the Dollar General store. In talking about the traffic, Mr. Damasi is correct, and we agree with his opinion, or he agrees with ours, however you want to look at it. We feel like it's a much safer condition, as you all have mentioned, for the traffic to come in and out of the site on Lofton Road, so we don't create another point of conflict with the traffic that's already trying to get out there. Now, one thing we could do, we could widen the road with the permission of the road board from the Dollar General entrance up to Las Casas Pike. There's been a lot of talk about the Lofton Road being too narrow. I'm assuming it's about 20 feet, 18, 20 feet. We could widen that out to 30 or 36 feet, even allow the space for a left turn lane for people that might be wanting to turn left and go to Murfreesboro, and people that want to go right out of the county or straight across to Canesville Pike could go straight through. I think that might be the best thing we could do. You were talking about maybe an entrance off of Las Casas Pike. In theory, it's good. I think we might have a right turn in only, but in effect, what happens, you'll have people trying to turn left in there also. It's hard to keep people from doing that. If they think it's a little quicker, they're going to jump out there and try to do it. We'd rather have them all come to the established intersection and make those improvements there and make that a safer intersection. So Mr. Turner has indicated to me he's willing to do that, to widen Lofton Road with the permission of the road board from his entrance up to Las Casas Pike.
What's the distance on that, Steve? I was trying to gauge it.
Yeah, it's about 100, 150 feet. It's not a terribly long distance, but it is what it is.
Yeah, from the center of the entrance to the intersection, he's right. It's about 100 feet or so.
And I know we can't require you to make any aesthetic changes to the property in terms of the appearance of the building, but we can convey the community's interests and ask you perhaps to voluntarily take that into consideration. As you decide what the outside facade's going to be like. And it's been my experience that Dollar General has always wanted to be a good neighbor and well received in the communities, where they open and operate. So, on behalf of those citizens, I'm conveying that request to you that you take that into consideration.
I'm sure we will, and as I mentioned, the developer is here with me today, so he's hearing your comment.
Okay. How much brick are you figuring on having on a brick front, or half the front, or any of the sides?
I'll have to let Mr. Turner address that with your permission.
Mr. Mossy's got a sketch up, but
Morning. I'm Monty Turner, the developer for the proposed project, and what we can do on this building, it's a corner entry building, or a corner entry design. We can wrap the front two sides with brick, which would be an upgrade from what you see on that elevation there.
yeah, this shows only halfway down one side. In my opinion, if we went all the way down both sides, you'd be looking at brick from the whole corner, and that would
Right. We can do that.
step in the right direction.
This may be a push a little bit, Monty, but I mean, is there any way you could put a little porch over that corner? Make it look a little more Cracker Barrel-ish, I guess you might say, or look a little more like the drugstore down there. Have you got another, y'all got another set of plans back in the back drawer?
Really don't for this project. Dollar General typically likes to stay within their prototype design. What we can do is upgrade some of the aesthetics, some of the finishes on the building, but deviating from how they design that corner entry that's pretty tough, because it affects the interior layout, and they can't do that.
Okay, we're on the same page as widening Lofton Road, making that a safer road, and we're on the same page making the front of the appearance appeal to the community.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What is that? A light?
And if you just change the brick to a dry, like a dry stack, type something, I mean, that's a whole different look right there. But out of the many Dollar Generals that you do across the country, there's not a warmer design. I mean, I'm just asking, we can't make you do this. This is appealing to the community is what this is doing.
The brick looks a lot better than the metal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir.
I mean, we can't sit here and hold our thumb on you and say, this is what we want, but we can ask you. And you can say no, but Germantown and Memphis, I mean, it's different. You know, Brentwood, it's different. Different stuff. So what can you do to help ease our pain? And really, these folks out there,
Right.
Not ours, but
Well,
those folks out there.
I think on that long wall, which will front Las Casas, we can put some of either the split face block on the 4 feet high with brick coming up all the way down, or we can take the whole wall and make it brick. I kind of like breaking up that material to where it's not just one big wall of brick. So we just did one on Manson Pike. It was a city of Murfreesboro job, but that design turned out pretty nice. We could do something like that. But I think going with the masonry all the way down that side would be a pretty substantial upgrade. Now, we've done ephes or stucco, but to me, going with some split face and stone and brick, and all masonry would look just as good as an ephes and brick.
Okay.
These flat roof buildings, are these flat roof buildings?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have a question, Mr. Turner?
They are. That's what
Steve, I have no question to you. On the detention pond, we've overkilled and overkilled. Is there any extra foot or so we could overkill? Because this lady's talking about well, you absolutely wouldn't be causing this lady any problem. What the problem she'd have is what's already there.
Sure, we feel confident we're at that point already, but if you would like us to enlarge the pond, we can enlarge it more.
So this fish probably would not flood that way.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just want to make one comment. I had a father-in-law and mother-in-law at the other end of Lofton Road for years. And I've come in and out of Lofton Road down there at that intersection, and I know exactly what you're talking about there. There's so many times I've sat there and thought I was pulling out, and then all of a sudden catch something out of the corner of my eye. I mean, it's not the easiest place in the world to come in and out of. And when I first saw this, I didn't like it there at all. I just didn't like it because I have been there so many times. I don't like that intersection, whatever. First of all, widening that and fixing that intersection will make a big improvement not only for Dollar General in that intersection, but for the people coming in and out of Lofton Road altogether. It should have been done years ago, because that has been a narrow spot, a bad spot to begin with. So maybe we can accomplish two problems with that whatsoever there. And I think maybe helping with that pond too can help these individuals out there too, maybe get some protection there. But I was sitting here a while ago looking at this, and I thought, well, maybe an entrance from the state highway. Well, then we get into this turn lane thing we've argued about here back and forth. We're involved in that all the time. If we can fix this right here at that intersection and maybe accomplish fixing more than one problem there, but several different problems, that's what I want to see, Mr. Chairman, in some way to take care of all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Let me say one thing. We've created these nodes within the new plan. And Doug and I have had this conversation that within those nodes, the community will be able to get together and set some design standards. And I guess this is a little ahead of doing that, but that's probably what Las Casas would like. Las Casas and Milton, I know the area. And just a little bit of change, and it would go a long way with the community.
Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else?
One other quick question. When we approved that one down on Las Casas, closer to Murfreesboro, close to the high school, close to Compton, down in that area, the community had some concerns about the design, and we worked with them as it related to retention ponds and lighting, those type of things. Does this design incorporate all of that lighting, the downward lighting, instead of the?
I believe it does. They actually submitted a lighting plan. It was just a little 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 17 sheet in here, which showed the foot candle levels at the property lines were fairly reduced. So, but yeah.
Only problem I see with that though is if they've got the roof mounted lights, and if the front picture on T1 shows those right on the front corner, and if it lines up, if they're not aimed right, it's going to be kind of shining towards Canesville Pike. There is a pretty good distance there, another 150 feet or something like that.
But we can work with the applicant as far as how they're aimed and everything. I think we can take care of that.
One more question about the landscaping plan. Is it satisfactory to buffer the people that are in delay estates? Because even though this has been zoned commercial a long time, it's had a residential look about it for the last 20 years for sure. And one of the concerns that I got, and I know some of these people that signed the petition are in delay estates. Are we sufficiently buffering them?
Are you looking at the landscape plan
well,
right now?
That's where, yeah.
Okay. Well, it looks like on that, I guess that'd be the west side of the property. Not only are they having the landscape buffer there, the trees, but they're also having a 6-foot privacy fence down a good portion of the property line. Except really the only part they're not is where the drainage easement is. There's a break in both the buffering and the fence. So there will be not just the landscape, but also a solid fence there. So I think that meets our requirements. That
fence be on the inside of the trees or the outside of the trees?
Be on the outside of the trees, the way they have this drawn.
Is that better? Is that better or worse?
Well, we had some discussion about this when we looked at our landscape regulations revisions a few years ago. And I think at one point we were thinking that maybe it would be better to have the trees on the outside of the fence. But then the point was brought up, well, if you do that, first of all, the people who maybe run the building or, manage the building, the property, whatnot, it's almost an out of sight, out of mind kind of situation where a lot of people think the fence is the property line, so anything over on the other side isn't their responsibility. So I'm okay with this, because at least that perception won't be there. So.
Okay, any other discussion, questions? Got a motion?
I'll try a motion. I'll make a motion to approve contingent upon all staff comments. Also contingent upon the front 2 exposed sides of the building being full masonry. The
based on the concessions that the developer has indicated.
Based on concessions of developer, statements of the developer. The road being improved from the entrance to the Dollar General to 96 with a left-hand turn lane wide enough to establish a separate turn lane, and also for the detention area to be enlarged to some extent at the design engineer's discretion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Motion second. All in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All opposed, no. Motion carries. Wood subdivision in Memphis Center.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As you stated, this is the Muirwood subdivision located off of Rucker Lane on the west side of Murfreesboro. You'll recall that this property is part of the litigation that is currently been filed by some of the owners in this area against the city of Murfreesboro for annexing this property where the subdivision is. We've seen Section 1 and I believe parts of Section 2 already of the subdivision. This is the amenity center. Based on the pattern book for the subdivision, this was approved as a planned development through the county, and they do show this lot as being an amenity center. Now, the plan itself didn't show the pool. However, I don't think that this is inconsistent with what they were proposing for an amenity center, so I feel that this is consistent with that, so just in case that became an issue. I will say that there were a number of comments on this particular site plan. Also, since it's served by city sewer, it is required to have approval from the city of Murfreesboro, which did grant approval to this project as well. They also had a number of comments on it, which appear to have been addressed with this site plan. Most of our comments have been addressed as well. However, I will turn this over to Mr. Corbett. I believe he's got some drainage issues he wanted to discuss.
One thing we try to get them to do when they're putting in is go ahead and put all the drainage structures in before they start their construction. That way you got somewhere for the water to go. One thing they wanted to do is not build this detention pond in here at this time, and I feel that they need to put that pond in there because the water goes there. That's the main thing. Any approval on it, I would say we need to make contingent that pond has to be built at this time instead of later.
Yeah, why does the plat say to be constructed by others?
Talking about the pond.
Yeah, it says pond part of Muirwood Section 2 to be constructed by others. Who's the others?
I don't know the answer to that.
Is that a homeowners association deal?
It shouldn't be. It'll be turned over to the homeowners association, but it's supposed to be constructed by the.
If it's not
the
the
developer.
homeowners, who
Typically-
could the others be?
Typically, what that means in my history is, like if this set of plans were going out to bid to contractors, they're just bidding on the pool and the amenities, and the pond is not part of the package that they're currently bidding on. Ultimately, a contractor would build it,
Right.
but what I would assume is it's not part of this bid package.
I'd agree with that.
So that's
But-
where the pond will go that you recommend be built now.
Yes.
Bill, Steve. Comments?
Yes, sir. Good morning. I'm Bill Huddleston with Huddleston Steel Engineering. The Section 2 plans have already been before you, and at that time, this big pond was shown to take in. It takes in, I don't know if it's half the development, but there's a lot of lots that drain to this pond. The developer's hope was that he could build that pond with Section 2 as it was previously approved. What's happened, he's actually selling lots out there, believe it or not, and people are building houses. So those people are wanting to go ahead and get the pool in. So he said, okay, I'll go ahead and build the pool. So I understand the concern about going ahead and getting the pond built. Maybe we might not want to build the entire pond right now, just enough to take care of this amenity center, if that's okay.
Yeah, if we can work out something. It just whatever water is going to this area, the minister or any of the other stuff coming off the property, even if they don't have a building, the pond needs to be large enough, and I'll work with him on that. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, shouldn't we take into account the lots that are being sold too? Because that's originally who the pond was for anyway.
No, actually, the lots being sold right now are in Section 1, and houses are being built there, and that predated this new stormwater quality stuff that we're now doing. When we came back to you with Section 2, that's when we had to do we actually have two big ponds taking care of the stormwater quality. So these ponds are actually with Section 2, not with the section that's being built on right now. That's for Section 2 and beyond. They're for the rest of the development.
Yeah, the drainage for Section 1 is taken care of separately than these, but there needs to be something done in here to address, as Bill said, what we're creating at this point.
How many lots will be in Section 2? How many lots will be draining towards this, I guess, is the question approximately.
Section 1 has 60 existing lots. Section 2 has about 58 lots. There's still 100 and something lots to go. I don't know the exact number, but I'd say this pond would drain at least, I'd say 100 lots drain to it.
So it'll be more than Section 2 then.
Exactly. It's the way these stormwater quality regulations work. The more you treat regionally, the better off it works. In other words, if you try to do a bunch of little ponds with each section, it doesn't work as well as doing big ponds that catch regional water.
How many's been built out in that Section 1?
There were 60 lots. I don't know how many houses are being built. The developer has a contract with NVR, and they're actually selling some lots out there. They're moving okay, and I anticipate Section 2 getting built in 2012. But the homeowners are clamoring. They want to go ahead and get the pool ready for summer.
Okay, any other questions, Bill? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Is there a motion?
Well, just to make sure we're clear, it looks like if we approve this, they're going to go ahead and address at least the detention pond at a smaller level,
That's correct.
knowing that as lots are sold and growth hopefully increases, then the pond will be enlarged. Is that?
Yes.
Is that okay? Then I would make a motion to approve.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I've got a question, but we're still gonna look at section 2 in its entirety. This isn't gonna.
We've already approved section 2.
Oh, we already have.
The
That's
preliminary
right.
at least.
The preliminary, we haven't done.
Preliminary, but the final will still be back.
And it will encompass this area too.
That's correct.
But by virtue of the pond being there.
Right.
Okay, have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Staff reports.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just a couple of items. We talked about this a little bit at the last Planning Commission meeting, just kind of an overview of the changes to our draft ordinance. Most of you should have gotten a copy of the new ordinance. It's got the purple cover now. If you don't have one, please let me know. We have a couple extra copies still available, and we can, if we run out, we can always provide some others. Just some real quick items just for your information about things that we've changed. Again, just kind of review from the last meeting, but just a few things I wanted to tell you about. We have, based on a lot of discussions we had at the Planning Commission regarding conservation subdivisions, we have put some regulations in there now regarding that. They will be permitted in the RL zone at first, not in both the RM or the RL. There will be a 50% minimum open space. However, with the 1 acre per lot requirement, you'll be able to take that down to 17,000 square feet. So you should still be able to get the same amount. It should be a zero net density. You shouldn't get more or less than what you were going to get to begin with. There's calculations for determining usable space, and this is going to be a voluntary item. This isn't something that we're going to require of developers. They can still develop a conventional subdivision, but this will give them an option to go for a conservation subdivision should they desire. In Chapter 11, we added a section for standards that are applicable for certain uses in all districts, irregardless of whether or not it's permitted by right or a special exception. Things like recycling centers, farm wineries, those kind of things. There are several actually in there. The mobile home standards, we moved those from Chapter 11 to Chapter 4. We didn't change them any, just since they deal primarily with residentially zoned property. We figured it made more sense to have them in Chapter 4. Another standard that we've had some discussion on, and I think, again, we did talk about this at the last meeting, but just as an overview again, had to deal with our detached accessory structures. You'll recall that currently, if you have 1 acre or less, you're allowed 1,200 square feet of detached accessory storage space. If you've got between 1 and 5 acres, you're allowed 1,800 square feet, and you have 5 acres or more, you're allowed 2,500 square feet. Now, of course, we don't count agricultural structures over 5 acres, so that doesn't factor into that particular total. But what we've done after looking through the regulations, looking through how other communities handle this, what we've done, since we feel that a lot of the variances that go to the Board of Zoning Appeals that they see deal with this very item. I think we have a couple going next month, as a matter of fact, just the size requirements, variance of the size requirements of what's allowed. Up to 1 acre, we would propose just a catch-all 2,000 square feet of detached accessory space. And then anything above 1 acre would be kind of a sliding scale, would be 5% of the total lot area. Now, especially for under 1 acre, up to 1 acre, the 2,000 square feet, they would still have to meet lot coverage requirements, which I believe in the RL is 20%. I think the RM is 25%, if off the top of my head. So those would still have to meet. So even if they were allowed to have 2,000 square feet, if their lot coverage was too high, they'd still be limited by the lot coverage. But anything above 1 acre, again, we would look at 5% of the total lot area, which when you start moving up the scale, if you have 100 acres, you still are able to cover quite a bit of land, but it's nowhere near what, if you just use the lot coverage standard. That was something we talked about. If you just said, okay, it's 20% lot coverage, you can have up to that. Somebody has 100 acres, they could have 20 acres under roof. So we have taken that down. It's more than what they'd be allowed now, but we feel that this would be a more simplistic approach to that. In Chapter 14, our standards for special exceptions, we've reduced a lot of those. Really, all we've done is if it was something that was required already, for instance, if it said in the requirements for a particular use under special exceptions, shall be required to have a site plan approved by the Planning Commission. That's something that's already required. We just took that out. So really, that was really the big changes. It cut out a lot of what was in there, but it didn't really change the content, if you will. And I think we had some discussion about the confined animal feeding operations. Again, due to our discussions with the consultant, he does not feel that can be regulated. He feels it's an agricultural use based on our state law. So we've just taken out those standards. And then finally, we've added a section in here regarding traffic studies. I know that's something that we've talked a lot about over time. And we actually have placed some regulations. Our consultant that's working on the subdivision regulations has provided us some language that we've incorporated in here as well. For those of you who have the book, basically what we've done is anything that's different, anything that's been added in here is in italics, and that way you'll know it's new, and everything else is just its normal text. So that's just kind of a quick overview of some of the changes. Of course, we've made little minor typo changes and things in here throughout. But I'm sure over the Thanksgiving holiday you've all digested this and just are burning up with questions now and comments. But I will just remind you all that we will be having a public hearing on this December 12th, 2 weeks. I guess that's 2 weeks from today. It'll be over in the courthouse, 6 p.m. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you just happen to have any right now. If not, we'll have a formal presentation at the December 12th meeting. So.
What else do we have on the agenda?
I think we have one rezoning at this point, and I don't think we've gotten any site plans or plats. Now, recall as well that this is going to be our only Planning Commission meeting for December. You'll recall the last couple years, and I mean, it's always going to work out this way. The fourth Monday always falls right after Christmas and between Christmas and New Year's. And so the last couple of years we've canceled that meeting. This year we've decided, when we did the schedule for this year, we asked you prior to doing that if you just want us to just take away that meeting, and you all said yes. So we're just going to be having the one December 12th meeting. But at this point it appears just the one zoning hearing and then this.
Okay, also that night we meet here at 5.
Yes. And Ms. Johnson has a sign-up sheet, or I think she's keeping one in her. It's going around. So
here,
whatever.
everybody hadn't signed it.
Okay, great. It's here. So if you guys want to sign up for some yummy side dishes, we'll provide the meat and everything, but only yummy side dishes. We don't want any bad side dishes. Just yummy ones.
I'll second that.
Is there an interpretation in here of yummy side?
We can put one in.
Got 11's got everything.
Hey, Doug, back to the open space you were talking about. If you do a 100-lot subdivision and you end up with 30 acres of open space, I don't know what the percentage would be there. You go for a smaller lot size and you end up with open space. Who owns the open space then?
Well, there's some provisions in here for that. It gives the option for a homeowners association or a possibility of like a land trust or something like that.
So there could be some farmland preservation.
Yes.
Type stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were going
and it
for.
remains in private hands.
Right.
And then it'll be, some homeowners associations don't, it ends up unkempt.
Right.
And that would be better.
Right, yeah, and there are regulations in here for that about how to go about.
What section?
I think it's section 11. Is that where we put it? Section 11, is that where we put the conservation? Yeah, 1107.
Looking 11.
Under the new ordinance, it starts on page, it starts on page 11-66. And that's the standards for that.
And speaking of open space, I remember there was some conversation about sites that had a large step system.
Yes.
And you remember the discussion whether it was unfair that it didn't count, or did any of those questions get?
Well, as far as in the plan development section, something we did change in that was that one of the concerns was, well, you're not going to let us count it as open space,
right.
So why are you making us count it on the front end as far as the how much open space you're required to have? So what we have done on the plan developments is taken that part of it out of the equation. So if you had 100 acres and you had a 20-acre step field, you make your open space calculations taking out the step field and just base it on 80 acres is what we did. So that kind of reduces the amount.
So you still have to have 30% of the 80 acres.
Right. Now, I have had some discussions with some of the local engineers regarding that standard as far as a 20%. We'll have some. We have some information on that we'll present to you probably at the 12th meeting regarding that, about some possible changes to that. Basically what they would just like to see the 20% requirement just go away and just have us kind of take each one on a case-by-case basis. I understand where they're coming from. At the same time, it's nice to have something in the regulations that you have an objective standard, not just looking at it and say, well, gee, we really wish you would have done this a little more than that. That starts opening the door to being more subjective, where you made one do this, but you make another one do this. I know, there's no two plan developments that are exactly the same. Mm-hmm. So, and I can kind of see both sides of it, but at this point, I'm not ready to make a recommendation one way or the other. I think that's something that, we'll present the case to you and what you feel more comfortable with. I think having some sort of objective standard is good, but I understand their concerns as well. So,
okay. What is this documentation on Agenda 21?
Oh, yeah, that was something that I handed out. Of course, with the public hearing coming up, word, of course, is getting out about our public hearing, which is good. That's what we want. There's been some concerns about the comprehensive plan, just in general, about what its goals and its recommendations are for and what they do. This is something that was actually posted by the American Planning Association on their website. This is just something that we've kind of heard some concerns about as far as what the plan's goals and objectives were, and we just wanted to present that document to you just to answer any questions and concerns that you may have if you're getting some of those same phone calls and conversations that we're having. So.
Okay. Okay, Doug.
Well, we still have the issue with the
procedures.
Yeah, with the bylaws and the procedures for the public hearings and whatnot. If you want to discuss that, that's on the agenda.
Everybody, you gave out the
yes.
What the city of Murfreesboro uses.
Right.
And in our training session, Mr. Edwards said that we did need something in our bylaws stating how long that we let someone speak. 3-5 minutes. What we need to come up with something we stick to, and if someone exceeds that, we need to have to make a motion that suspend the rules so they can exceed that. And so I guess we need to come up with something. I don't know that we can right now. We might ought to just let us committee here first of the year and come up with
And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. Now, I will say I did receive an email from someone who plans on attending the public hearing I'll be having on the 12th and has requested a presentation time about 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm more than happy to wait. That's fine. I'm just wanting to make you aware of that now, that there is someone out there that does want to make a presentation. That's a little more lengthy than what we would normally have.
Could we adopt these rules now, or do we need to have a public hearing on adopting these
You
rules?
don't have to have a public hearing necessarily. Now, our bylaws do require that 5 days notice be given to the planning commission members before any changes are made. Now, we have not done that because obviously we didn't know what kind of changes we were talking about, or if even any changes were going to be coming out of this meeting. So, but that's the only thing that requires is 5 days prior to the meeting that we notify the planning commission of the changes. So
we just casually handed this out at last month's
right.
meeting.
Yes, that's right. We didn't really discuss right.
It's all common sense stuff. I mean, I can agree pretty much this page verbatim. Just change the names and addresses on the back. But Harper, you can tell you and the staff have done a good job over at the city. But I mean,
is there anything about it like to add?
Well, what do we do with the person who wants 20 minutes? What if there's 6 people that want 20 minutes apiece? What if they want 60 minutes? What if they want 90 minutes at this point?
Well,
in time?
I think if you have something to go by, I think if somebody comes up there and says, well, we've got 3 people here that each want to make a half-hour presentation, I think at that point you say, look, there has to be a suspension of the rules, first of all, to allow that. You say, these are our procedures that we go by. If everybody's being held to the same procedure, then I don't think you have any issues. Now, again, if you're willing to grant that, then you say, we will suspend the rules to allow you and you to speak, but you can only have 15 minutes apiece or something like that, and then you hold them to that. I mean, I think you have that ability to do that. So it just, again, I think that's what Mr. Edwards was saying about having procedures in place. That way it's something you can point to and say, well, we don't allow that. That's why we're going to suspend the rules to allow you to speak. I mean, obviously, you don't want to shut anybody out, but at the same time, you know, you don't want to be here till 5 a.m. either. So there's that. So.
Well, not just us, but the people in the
Oh, well,
audience,
right.
you know.
Okay.
Well, if you had, for instance, if you had a presentation coming up on the 12th that was 20 minutes, and one person's giving it, but if they're giving it on behalf of the crowd, can you not say,
That's one thing.
we'll have, instead of having 8 people at 3 minutes 24, we'll give one person 20 minutes, and can we hold their feet to the fire on that?
I think if it's in your
I
procedures,
mean, they have to
think you
decide
can.
that you've got one spokesman,
Right.
and you hope you better say everything that you want said, because
Right.
Okay.
Well, one of the things that we don't do now that I know some groups do is you have to sign up prior to the meeting to speak.
Right.
You have to sign up in advance. So maybe a way you could do that is if someone signs up and say, I'm conceding my time to whoever, and then that way it adds up to the 20 minutes, I guess is what I'm thinking. There's some accountability there, because otherwise you could give that person 20 minutes, and then each person behind them supporting that group could still stand up and do their 3 minutes each.
Well,
So you've not really accomplished anything.
They've got it stated here, you're allowed 5 if they're representing a group, and 3 if you're just representing yourself.
We'd have to suspend the rules for
So
that
if you
person.
wanted to change that 5 and this verbiage to 10 or 15 or whatever you wanted to do.
We could still do that on a case-by-case basis by just suspending the rules,
yeah.
because those are the rules, if we
Good.
adopted those.
Mhm.
And we just do that on a case-by-case basis as it came upon us.
You could.
We've tried to do that here in the past, years ago, when we've had big issues. You remember the Mustang Football League, and they had 200 folks up here, and we had a fire marshal issue and all kinds of stuff, and everybody wanted to speak, and everybody was saying the same thing, and we finally asked them to get a representative. We'll give you as much time as you want, but you know, we're saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I don't remember if that's actually written in here, but I mean that's
It is
yeah, okay.
addressed in here.
Then I mean, if it wasn't, then that's something you could very easily put in here.
thing.
Say, look, you know, if you have new information, that's great, but if you're just going to get up and say the same thing everybody else has said, you know, thank you, but you know, we understand, kind of thing.
Do speakers,
What's the appropriate
do speakers
amount
have
of
to sign
time
up
to
in
give,
advance?
say, Mr. Turner, what's the appropriate amount of time for the
I'd say
applicant?
3 to 5 minutes.
For the
is-
applicant.
For the
to
app.
present
Oh, for the
his-
applicant.
The applicant to present his presentation.
Be
Well,
5 to
that's
10.
before
5
the
to 10
public hearing.
minutes.
That's information for staff and the committee, so it's not really a timed
Yeah, and
presentation,
you
is it?
still have question time
Yeah.
as part of that time.
Right.
So they may have a 5-minute presentation, they may be up there 10 more for questions.
Hey, Bible part.
Oh, man.
The other thing, Doug, that we could do, if somebody has an extensive presentation, there's nothing that prevents them from giving us information in advance of the meeting for us to review, and then they can just go over their key talking points, right? I mean,
Well, no, I don't think there is. I mean, as far as, you know, like the presentations that I was referring to someone wants to do on the 12th, you know, they're going to have to get it to us ahead of time.
Right.
So, because we have to load it up on the machines and everything. They just can't show up. And I think that's something important. People just can't expect to show up at a meeting with a thumb drive and say, oh, I want to make this presentation. You know, that's not going to work because based on the way it's set up in the courthouse and even here, we don't have time in the middle of a meeting to, you know, plug it in, load it, and make sure it runs properly and everything to test it. You know, if it's got video or audio in it, you know, at the last meeting we had some audio issues, which, you know, happens from time to time, even though we had tested it and it worked fine prior to the meeting. These things happen. But we would, when I contact the gentleman back who had contacted me, and I think I've already even told him that, you know, we're going to need it ahead of time so we can make sure it's loaded on the machine. So, yeah, but yeah, putting something in there about
They want to convey
that.
information to the members. There's nothing that prevents them from giving us information, detailed information ahead of time, and then him just speaking from summary points.
Yeah.
We're just trying to be efficient with
Right,
everyone's time.
right. And what we could do
and
is,
still give
yeah.
him a chance to get his point across.
Yeah, we could just say, you give us your presentation to staff. We'll you know, distribute your information to the planning commission members, and then, like you said, you know, everybody's got it, and everybody, you know, has read it. Just go ahead and make your high points, and yeah, I mean that's something that's something we could put in there too. You know, to the extent that someone can get your information to us ahead of time, and or if you have a audio or some sort of a video presentation that you want to submit, it has to be submitted X amount of days prior to the meeting for us to be able to load it up on the machine and those kind of things.
This Will made a point a minute ago. This was passed out 2 weeks ago, and I think this is the type of stuff that we've been doing or trying to do anyway.
Right.
And unless we have to go through some committee or some other type of process, or unless the majority of this commission wants to take another look at this, I don't see any reason why we can't adopt this language and put it in effect at the most appropriate time. And if a motion is appropriate, I'll make that motion that we adopt.
Well, let's do, yeah, I mean, I think you can just give us direction that that's what you want, and we can go ahead and kind of fine tune this based on the discussion we've had here, kind of look through what they
Free
have.
to write it to suit our needs.
Right, and then we can present
approve
it
next time.
Yeah, we can present it at the next meeting, and I'll talk with our legal staff just as far as procedure goes. But I mean, it might be something we could do prior to having any other business. Just look at this first.
Let Josh look at it.
Yeah,
I missed the last meeting, so I hadn't seen this till today. But this back page, I think this is a good handout to have
Really
up
is.
there on the desk. You know, when somebody comes up, they're inquiring, well, I might want to come back to the meeting. Well, you know, here are the rules, and here are the contact information, the members, and all that. So I think that's a good thing to have up there on the desk.
And even on the website as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can easily do that.
Well, so are we okay with the 3 minutes and 5 minutes?
I think so.
Yeah, we can always suspend the rules
Yeah.
and add up and extend that.
Do you need to put that in the language that the rules can be suspended? I don't
Well,
know.
yeah, I mean, I think we'll work it in that, you know, on for various situations, the rules can always be suspended by a
Or to
vote
the
by the
chair.
planning commission, right, motion and second, and voted on by the planning commission.
Okay, you okay with that? Then bringing something back to, okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I have.
Motion. Motion to adjourn. Second.
Second. Second.